Hey everyone, Slide47 here. Welcome back to Push Yourself. Today we're going to be talking about the third equipment slot with Rudder versus Concealment, because Lord knows none of us are actually using the health pool one. So outside of that, this conversation has been actually going on for probably since I've ever really become a generally larger content creator for World of Warships Blitz, as Rudder versus Concealment is, I'd say, a pretty contentious topic. A lot of people want to say Rudder is used better on certain ones versus Concealment is used on better ones. So I've actually brought on a Rulers of the Wave winner with me, Matt from Rage, who's joined me over also in the Tier Maker season as well. Matt, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Not bad myself. So there's been a constant conversation between us, I'd say over the last year or so, of whether or not to use Rudder versus Concealment on ships. So what makes you pick Concealment over Rudder in general?
Okay. Like you said, on light cruisers especially, your health pool is not as good as a heavy cruiser. So you need to see the field before you ever even take that first shot. With Rudder, your philosophy is, well, I'm going to be spotted anyway, so I might as well increase my dodging ability. But with Concealment, you're more so saying, okay, I want to see this. Where's everybody at? What is the best position possible before I take the first shot?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we all agree on that aspect, but I find that you use it on things far more than me, and it is very interesting to see that. So, what criteria do you see in a ship that you go, hey, this is definitely a candidate more for Concealment than Rudder?
I think the only ships that I would not run Concealment on is Legendary module Hindenburg and Stalingrad. The only ones that I use it up to even Moskva, because with Moskva it's very hard to dodge in the first place. So if I can it really just comes down to that initial positioning. It's okay, well, I'm going to this side of the map, and I don't want to be the first one spotted. The first one spotted is always the first one focused. So as long as I'm not the first one shot and my teammates are shot first, that's the selfish side of it. The upside of it would be running it on something like a mines. I guess that's, in terms of team play, you're able to get closer to the destroyer and you can get more shots on them because you are closer. So like in things like Buffalo, I mean, if you have AP loaded and you're 8 kilometers away, most of the time you do get full 10s, and you have the ability, if you hit 10 shells, which is very hard, but if it's on a Rigolo or a Delny or a Kaba, something bigger, you can put 8,000 damage onto a Kaba, and that significantly helps that side or the flank you are in that map.
Oh yeah, surprising DDs and catching them off guard, being a lot closer than you would in a typical sense. Concealment mod in that third slot helps really choose your engagements. It allows you, especially right off the bat, I think the main source of why you pick that conceal is for that idea of, okay, I'm going to wait till the last moment before I'm going to be the first spotted. And that can give you key and critical advantages within a battle. But after that, in a battle, how do you use Concealment mods still after the first engagement? So, of course, once you're spotted, you're spotted. But what are your ideas on that?
There's really two scenarios. Either your side gets overrun or you blow up that whole entire flank. Sometimes there is a stalemate, which you can also use Concealment in, but I'll stick to just the first two. Let's say you blow open your side of the flank in Hourglass, and they have the cap shut down on one side. You can use that Concealment, kind of like with the Destroyer. You basically want to ambush somebody, and you can get close, or you can reposition in a way that you can put an island between you and somebody, and then you're unconcealed, and then you pop out the other side at the most inconvenient time for them. And just like right after Slava shoots, right after Colombo shoots, and like, oh, if I would have just held that salvo just a little bit longer. But if you're sitting there and you wait for that salvo, there's really nothing they can do, and then you just destroy them. So it really does come down to that play style. Like, that's why I run it on Buffalo and Des Moines, because they're very high DPM cruisers. And if I can wait for, let's say a Colombo to shoot or a Vermont to shoot, I have 30 seconds. If I pop a rapid reload, that is a lot of damage very quick. So the ambush style is definitely very rewarding, but also very risky, because CV does hard counter it. And if we got a CV every game, I would probably say run Rudder. But CV is definitely the hard counter to that.
Oh yeah, the CV definitely can. Now in the second circumstance, when you are getting overrun.
Okay. Whenever you are getting overrun, like let's say encounter, for example. If I'm in Colbert and there's two battleships pushing me, and if they're both together, you can dodge. But if they have somewhat of a crossfire on you, you need to go dark, because I don't care how good you are at dodging. If someone has a good crossfire on you, you can only dodge for so long before you get absolutely blasted, especially at tier 10, because the dispersion from Slava and other things of that nature are very insane. So in that type of situation, when you're getting run down, you need to be able to go dark, and you need to be able to reposition yourself. Sometimes it is not possible, but in things that are fast, like Colbert, Henry, Venezia, the super fast cruisers, I guess Venezia is kind of ish, but it's still 36, 37 knots. Also Zal. And those type of cruisers, if you can go dark, they have to guess where you are. They can't shoot you all the time. And things like Zal, you have torpedoes. Genon, you have torpedoes. So those kind of things, you have torpedoes that can't help you. But in things like Colbert, you want to reposition to where you have an island, or they're focused on somebody else before you open that fire. So concealment, whenever someone is pushing you, is basically to help you conserve HP. That way you can use it later on in the battle. Now, I try to explain this to people. I like saving my HP early in the battle. That way I can make late game pushes. Now, it doesn't matter if you have 1 HP at the end or your full health. So you need to embrace the idea of being able to use your full health pool. Now, if you use all of it at the beginning, it limits how much you can actually do in that game. But the longer you go in the game, let's say there's 2 minutes left, a minute left. I've done this several times where I'll just pull up to a battleship and I need to kill him to win in, let's say, a Buffalo, and I'm full health. Like I'm 35,000 health. And I can basically say, I don't give a crap how much damage you're going to do to me. I'm going to sit here broadside to you, and you're going to die. So that is the other side of it is, okay, I need to conserve my health pool right now, because if I just throw them away, I'm not getting anything for it. So in that sense, and then, the third concept is very difficult because every game is different, which makes this game fun.
Yeah, but at the same time, we can kind of extrapolate upon that. If you are having a bit of a stalemate, and you're trading health in particular areas, and you maybe are out of position, let's say you're a little bit too advanced, you're noticing that your other flank is not holding, or maybe they are holding really well, it might be actually a perfect time to go dark and try to find a more advantageous time to pop back in, so that when your team can maybe come and help you, or maybe so that while that other flank is falling back, you can surprise, and as you've repositioned on the map, go over to the other side and help out support. Because now this other team is like, hey, I got someone to deal with. Someone's over here. Well, they're just sitting there. They're not doing anything while you're already going over to help out your other side. So there's definitely ways you can use concealment to break contact and just utilize that health pool in a better sense. Just the way you said, it's like, hey, if you can save up your HP till late, there's certain times, yeah, sure, the Vermont can full broadside you. It's highly unlikely it's going to nuke you, but I'm going to dump 50k worth of damage into them really quickly.
Exactly.
So you definitely can utilize concealment, and I think that's really one thing that I run into often with a lot of people that say, hey, do you run concealment on this? Do you not run concealment on this? And why do you run concealment? Concealment is really, you want to choose it first for that idea of that first point. Because, of course, whoever gets the shot off first typically wins the fight in general, in history, and also in games. But with Rudder, though, you say, you use it on Stalingrad. Is there any battleships that you run Rudder on specifically? Because concealment doesn't add into that equation.
I'm not very much of a battleship player, but I think I run it on Montana. I don't have that many battleships. I think I have Montana, Black Montana, Slava, Black Republic. Yeah, I have the OP ships. Montana for sure, because at least Black Montana, because it is hard to reposition in a battleship, much less go dark. It's still very possible, but it's definitely a lot harder and a lot less used. And sometimes those rudders do help whenever you're not that good of a battleship player, because sometimes you're like, oh crap, the torpedoes are there. I didn't predict that, and you need to turn into them. So in that sense, that's where Rudder is definitely helpful. But in things like burst damage battleships such as Bourgogne, Republic, Black Republic, that's whenever you play more of that ambush style, where I'm going to, well, let's say Black Republic, for example, you have a smoke on a battleship. Thank you, Wargaming. It is the most fun ship to ever catch somebody off guard in a game, because if you're not looking at your
piece of shit.
Oh, no doubt. But if you're running, like, let's say Vermont has his guns turned away from you and you're coming in on his backside, you can press that smoke and get even closer to him, pass your surface detection before you even start shooting at him. And at that point, I mean, you're so close to him that he can't get away from you. And as soon as you pop that rapid reload, you dump so much damage into him so quick. It is very tough for anybody to recover from that. And it also makes the game a lot more fun, not being shot at in those ships that can take a lot of damage very quickly.
No, definitely. I think one of the best examples for battleships really is, because it is the more meta pick, is Concealment on the Conqueror. As much as a lot of people like to crap on the Conqueror and everything like that, the ship has some insane DPM for its class. And especially recently, I tried Trophy on him, and when you put Trophy on Conqueror, AP with APCS plus at 10 kilometers, which is where you're going to start engaging with that ship, because hey, you're going battleship v battleship, that AP will massively cripple an enemy battleship. So it's highly suggested that if you can play that way, it might not be a bad idea. But yeah, I think with the rudder idea is that in general, you're going to want to be dodging torpedoes more. And especially if you're a newer player, learning how to predict those torpedoes and dodging those torpedoes will probably keep you alive a lot longer than learning how to kind of hold your shot back and wait for you to go into concealment, just in general, at least in my opinion. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yes, 100%. And that's something I see a lot of people struggle with, is whenever they turn to concealment, they don't know when the perfect time to come out from concealment. And I'll just tell you right now, there isn't a perfect time. It's kind of like your intuition. You just have to say, okay, I think now's a good time, and you have to go with it. You have to stick with your gut. If you think right then is the perfect time to start shooting and not hold your salvo any longer, and right then is just the perfect time, like, there isn't a perfect time, but you have to just make that decision, okay, right now, and then go with it. Yeah. If you are somewhat half committed when you start to shoot, it's a lot harder, because you're still not, if you're fully into something, like, okay, I'm going to shoot this guy in skill form with everything I have, it's a lot more simple, because you start focusing even better, you manage your guns better. But if you're somewhat half-hearted, you don't aim as good, you hold your salvo just a little bit longer, it doesn't help you in any way.
No, it doesn't. And add into the fact that it's a lot easier to be more predictive on torps, because of course, oh, hey, these torpedoes came by or hit some of me 40 seconds ago. I need to start moving, because guess what? There's another set most likely coming shortly thereafter, 50 seconds or something like that, or God forbid, Shima torps every 90 seconds or so. So that's a lot easier, because it's like clockwork. They're going to launch them the moment they're loaded again and such, where exactly. Knowing when to hold your shots, because of course you might kind of go, wait, that's lowering my DPM by holding my shots and going back into concealment. But you can't do damage if you're dead. And you can't do damage if you're basically just getting your crap kicked out of you early in the game. So sometimes you want to back away and make sure that you can do the right damage in the game. Is there any other tips and tricks that you would have for anyone who's wanting to say, hey, I know maybe I'm newer to the game, but I want to learn this concealment meta. I want to learn how to push themselves to, not the pun intended, push themselves to the next level and actually start putting concealment on ships that typically would run rudder?
I would say put surface detection on a ship that already has very good surface detection, and learn how to play with, not necessarily destroyer, because destroyer is very low, but if you have things like Austin, like even mines is very low concealment. If you can learn how to play with mines, it helps you play it on the bigger ships. Whenever you're in a bigger ship, it tends to actually limit it sometimes. But I will use this one example. It does happen more often than not. If you're getting rushed down by, let's say, a Vermont or a Montana, and they have all their guns turned toward you, if you just go dark and there's a battleship, like, let's say 5 to 10 kilometers away, and as soon as you go dark, let's say you're half health, and he starts pushing, you can use that to your advantage and get on their backside. And that is whenever it is probably the best in terms of, oh crap, well, if I stop shooting, I'm limiting my DPM. Well, I can get on this guy's backside and I can actually do a lot more damage than where I am at that point in time. So I would say that's kind of the tips and tricks is if you know a battleship is going to push you as soon as you go dark, do it, and then get on his backside and make him wish that he never did push.
Oh yeah, map positioning is key and critical. Is knowing, hey, cool, I'm dark. This is how you move around. You just got to go, okay, cool. What's the best solution in order to make sure that I'm not the one getting shot, and such? Because of course, with concealment, you do want to be utilizing that. Now, is there anything that is there anything that you've ever noticed is you go, hey, that person is running concealment, but they're using it wrong? Is there anything that you'd want to watch out for?
Okay. Definitely, if you put concealment on there, you are basically saying that I'm not going to be the first one to shoot. And I see a lot of people running concealment and then they're the first people to shoot. Or they put themselves in that bad position to where the concealment mod is not helping them in any way, shape, or form. So, like if you're, oh crap, there's a destroyer 12 kilometers away and you're in a battleship, I'm going to shoot at it. Unless you're Columbo, don't shoot at it. Wait, hold your salvo a little bit longer.
Yep.
Wait and see where everybody is. But I would say that, and I don't see very many people running concealment, but whenever I do, they're definitely a much more difficult enemy to kill.
Yeah, because they are going to be thinking about that, and that's the main reason why I wanted to bring you on, Matt, and why I wanted to kind of expand on this topic that I've been covering on this channel for a very long time, is that there is no right answer to concealment or rudder, except on probably most DDs and light cruisers. You want to be running concealment on those. But after that, once you get to larger ships, it starts to be more your playstyle. And I think this actually goes back to our kind of general conversation about this with the Buffalo. Between you and I run rudder, you run concealment, and it is a fun little argument that we have between each other of which one's best, because I fundamentally run the ship in a whole different way. So to kind of use the Buffalo as an example, how do you play the Buffalo with concealment, particularly? What's your thought process?
Okay, so I will say this. Every game is different. Some games steering is just going to be better. Some games concealment is going to be key to getting around a rock before I get spotted. The way I play Buffalo, it really just depends on the game, but I guess, okay. I definitely play Buffalo as much more of a ambush ship, unless I'm just getting completely overrun, and then I played as a kiting ship, which it does very well at because you do have good range, unlike Des Moines without Legendary Commander or mod. Okay, so those are really the two play styles. It's either you're going to be an ambush or you're going to launch HE at max range. That's the two ways I play it a lot. It's a very, very good damage dealer overall, and I guess that's why I definitely enjoy it. Yeah, I really do think I will say this. As long as you have a good philosophy, and it is a good philosophy that you can make steering or concealment work, go with it. You know what I mean? So the only time that I would say you have to run concealment is whenever you're in a cruiser that is trying to hunt destroyers in a competitive kind of way. Like, let's say there's tunes on both sides, and it's basically like a rule of the waves match or a skirmish match, where you're just trying to get as close as you can to nuke a destroyer. I would say that most of, like, let's say for Austin, you don't even need a destroyer in front of you, because I have historical camo and concealment. You can basically just run straight into a destroyer, turn, kill it, dodge the torpedoes, and drop detection and run. It is the most stupidest, most fun thing Wargaming has ever come out with.
Oh yeah, no, and I think that really kind of highlights the ideas between us, because for me, I suggest rudder more often to people, just because typically more people are going to be able to utilize the rudder over the concealment, just due to skill, due to time, experience, and everything like that. So especially when you're saying, hey, I run the Buffalo more as an ambush predator or as a kiting ship, HE max range. I typically I'm sitting right next to my battleships and just adding to their DPM. I'm using my battleships as a defensive. Hey, they're most likely going to shoot the battleship over me, so therefore I'm going to kind of just be that person that's sitting there just farming damage. So I use it more like a support cruiser that's focused on DPM, almost akin to kind of a Stalingrad works, where they're just sitting at max range, long range DPM. So
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I've kind of explained my philosophy of concealment. Explain your philosophy of using steering.
So for me, I generally find that I can dodge a lot more. I tend to be, especially in the Buffalo type of situation, I'm going to be the one that's going to be firing the entire game. So the outside of the initial, of course, engagement time of where, hey, it would actually be kind of nice to have concealment, I'm generally going to be firing the entire game. Similar to that, like my Delny. I don't run concealment on my Delny. Why? I am going to be pumping HE into everyone the entire game. I do not run concealment on that for a reason, because I play it like a gunboat. I am the annoying mosquito that is constantly hitting you. And you can't hit me because I'm just moving back and forth in a very fast manner. So it's hard to hit me in that state, except for kind of better players, which I know will definitely hit me no matter what. But to me, Rudder is just easier to dodge. I stay alive a lot longer. And on particular ships, I'm not dropping concealment because I'm just pumping out damage the entire game, and I'm not focusing on that. So that's just my philosophy on that.
And in terms of sitting with your battleships, I do get that. I definitely find it hard in today's meta where the battleships tend to sit, like Chain, for example, they sit very far from each other. And the only real cruisers you can shoot with the battleships that far are things like Petro and Stalingrad, which of course you use steering on because you have to position yourself like that. But I'll kind of use this, like if you're in Chain and you have Worcester, sometimes being in a support cruiser is being a little bit further ahead than your battleships and holding an island and protecting them from planes or sonar. That way they can see the torpedo 6-7 kilometers out in front of them.
Yeah.
Or being in a perfect place to launch that radar. Sometimes being a support cruiser is not always being right there with your battleship or being right there with your destroyer. Sometimes it's being in between them. Sometimes it's being that one guy over on the flank, which I did a lot in Ruler of the Waves. Sometimes you're the flank cruiser who draws attention from everybody else. So sometimes, crossfires is, you're being a support cruiser, it's just a different way of looking at it. But still, sitting with your battleships in certain situations can definitely, like you said, keep them alive longer in some situations. The other thing that I'll use this as an example. I watched John the Ruthless on PC version. He's a very, very good light cruiser player, very good cruiser player in general. He plays King of the Seas and what for. There's a skill that if shells shot at you that are bigger than 150 millimeter, or I think it's 200, somewhere in that range, your detection goes red and then it goes back to yellow. And it helps you know who is shooting at you. And that's one thing I definitely find that would be a very useful skill.
Yeah,
because whenever you are in the open, let's say there's a Slava and you have not spotted them yet. I know, like, I've had Vermonts do that to me too, where, they sit undetected for a very long time and I'm so focused on somebody else, then I get slapped out of nowhere. And that's one thing that I do find with steering is that happens a lot more until you see, like, if you see the field, you know where everybody is, you know where you're going to get shot at from, you can kind of make your game plan. But I would be much more open to doing steering if I kind of had like an alert go off whenever someone was shooting at me. I don't know if that's just me or, but
no, I can
it's
see
a skill
that
maybe wargaming could do.
Well, just like Sixth Sense, how important Sixth Sense is. A lot of people don't realize how, even on battleships, knowing how many people are actually looking at you and targeting you, how key and critical it is to going, this is when I need to conceal up versus this is when I can just be doing 100%. Whatever. Yeah, there's so many times.
Felipe on Henry is a beautiful choice because whenever you have 5 people looking at you, like, okay, time to speed up and get the heck out of Dodge.
Yep. GTFO. Out of here.
43 knots with the cruiser that looks like a battleship. No one is going to hit you. Anyways,
no.
Sixth Sense is definitely nice to have, but I would almost take a skill that, you know, showed me like somehow, okay, you have shots coming in right now, kind of a thing.
That would be kind of almost akin to how torpedoes and like that. A lot of times you'll have the torpedo indicators and like that, which actually I have a whole video on that eventually coming out to, you know, kind of help read the torpedo indicator, because a lot of people don't understand, you know, okay, how screwed am I? And such. But you know, I think Sixth Sense and or that type of skill would be very helpful. I know for me, you know, there's certain times, hey, I'm the battleship, I'm going to be taking hits. I don't need to know how many people are hitting me. But on cruisers and deep on DDs, if all of a sudden 5 people are targeting you, you know you might need to go dark, and that's where, you know, kind of Sixth Sense and Concealment can be kind of utilized together to kind of go, okay, cool, I'm a little too hot, I'm a little too wanted of a subject. It's going to back away.
The only thing I don't like about Sixth Sense is whenever there's a Vermont that has his auto aim turned off.
That is
true.
true.
He's not looking at me. He's not looking at me. Slap. He was looking at me.
I actually did that to, I think it was Strato. I want to say Strato. I didn't target him. I specifically turned off auto aim because I was like, he's got to have a legendary commander on that. I know he does. And I ended up slapping him pretty hard on that one. So I've done that once or twice. I think I have a video. I think I have it clipped. I don't know where it is, but somewhere. But yeah, no.
Here comes the short.
Yeah, I know, right? But no, if you know the person's using that auto aim off, and I have a few videos on that as well, in order to kind of cover out how to do that. But yeah, auto aim off definitely does make Sixth Sense not as relevant. But
yeah, this is definitely a very controversial thing for middle of the road cruisers between heavy cruisers and light cruisers. But please, if you're running a light cruiser like Austin, just run Concealment, and you will thank me later.
Yeah, if you aren't running Concealment in that, there's, of course, a few times where you have special builds like Lighthouse Henri and Venezia, but those are different playstyles. You'd be thinking completely in a different headspace in comparison to when you're running it with Concealment overall. But Matt, is there anything else you want to talk about with Concealment versus Rudder?
No, I think we covered most of it.
Yeah, I think we did too. I think we did great. Hopefully you all enjoyed our conversation on Concealment versus Rudder. Let us know in the comment section down below where you stand on Concealment versus Rudder. What do you use? Kind of what's your qualifications to say, hey, this is a Concealment ship versus this is a Rudder ship, as there's plenty of battleships that love Concealment and there's plenty of cruisers that love Rudder. It's just a whole different gambit of everything. So love to know in the comment section down below. Like the video if you did, hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and follow on all the platforms that I upload and stream on. It definitely helps support the channel. Special shout out to the YouTube and Patreon members. Thank you for all the support. And once again, thank you to Matt for joining us on this podcast today.
Have a good day.
Yeah. Have a good one, everyone. Peace.